graph the quadratic function f of x, which is equal to negative x squared plus 6x minus 10. We want to give the vertex, b the axis or axis of symmetry, c the domain, and d the range. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. So first, we know that this function is in the form of f of x, which is equal to ax plus bx, or ax squared plus bx plus c. Okay, so our function is given by the following. We know that f of x is equal to negative x squared plus 6x minus 10. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to find the vertex. Before we find the vertex, we need to identify what is a. A is equal to negative 1. We know that b is equal to positive 6. And we know that c is equal to negative 10. Okay, now in order to find the vertex, we need to look at the following. Okay, the vertex is HK, okay, where H is equal to negative B over 2A and K is equal to F of H. Okay, so let's go ahead and figure that out. So we have A, step A, we want to find the vertex. So the H is equal to negative B over 2A. And we know that K is equal to F of H. So let's first find H, the coordinates. Well, we know that B is equal to 6. So we have negative 6 over 2 times A is equal to negative 1. So what does this give us? Well, this is actually negative 6 divided by 2 times negative 1, which is negative 2, and so that equals positive 3. So far, we know that the vertex for H is equal to 3. Okay, now we need to find K. Now K is equal to F of whatever H is, which is 3. And then we're going to plug it into the function here. So that means we have a negative on the outside, 3 squared plus 6 times 3 minus 10. Well, that equals to negative 3 squared is 9 plus 6 times 3, which is 18 minus 10. Well, negative 9 plus 18 is 9, and 9 minus 10 gives us negative 1. So now we know that K is equal to negative 1. So now we determine what is the vertex. So let's go ahead and put that in there. So 3, comma, negative 1. And we want to type in order pair, and there is our result. Okay, now we want to be able to graph this function. Okay, so here we are, we're going to graph our function here. So here we have our graph, okay, and the first thing we're going to do is identify where the vertex is. So the vertex is located at 3, negative 1. So let's go ahead and then plot that point. So we have over to the right 3 and then down negative 1. So there is the vertex. Okay, and so now we also need to know the following. We need to know what is the value of A in that function. Well, we can see here that the value of A represents negative 1. Okay, so since A is equal to negative 1 and it's less than 0, we know it's going to open down. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to be able to find 2 other points. Okay, and so we're going to pick 2 other points. So we're going to pick 2 values of x, and then we're going to plug it into the function of f of x, which is equal to negative x squared plus 6x minus 10, and determine what are those two other points, f of x. Okay, so we want to first determine what is the y-intercept, meaning where does it cross the y-axis. And remember that the y-intercept is when x is equal to 0. So we're going to plug 0 in for x. So if we take negative 0 and then square it, plus 6 times 0 minus 10. Well, this gives us 0, this gives us 0, so we get negative 10. So the ordered pair is going to be 0, negative 10. So let's go ahead and then plot that on the graph. So we're going to go 0 and then go all the way down to negative 10. Okay. Now remember here that when we have a symmetrical graph, right, that means that it's going to basically say that if this point here is how many units from the x, the value of the vertex, this is over 1, 2, 3 units. So that means the next point from here should go to the right 1, 2, 3 units. So that means that there's going to be another point here because it's symmetrical. Well, what point does that represent? Well, it's going to be 4, 5, 6, and then negative 10. So let's just plug in 6 to see if we get that. Okay, so if we plug in 6, we have negative 6 squared plus 6 times 6, and then we're going to subtract 10. Okay, so let's see what happens, right? Well, this becomes negative 36 plus 36. Well, that's going to give us 0, and we end up getting negative 10. So the other ordered pair is going to be 6, negative 10. So we saw that here. So now what we need to do now is to be able to graph this function. So we're going to graph this, and you can see here that we have our parabola that is going down. Okay, so again, we have our vertex, which is at 3, negative 1, and just let me move that over just a little bit here. Okay, we have the y-intercept, which is at 0, negative 10, and then we have another value at 6, negative 10. So let's go ahead and then graph that. So we're going to click this, and then we're going to come in here, and then we're going to select our graphing tool, which is the parabola tool, and then the first thing we're going to do is go from 3 to negative 1, and when we click on that, you can see up in the top right that it's 3, negative 1, and then we're going to go ahead and then look for 0, negative 10, there's 0, negative 10, and then the other point is going to be 6, negative 10, but we only need 2 points. Let's click save, and then check our answer, and there is our result. Okay, now we need to determine what is the axis of symmetry. So if we come back in here and look at this problem, we're going to do the following. To find the axis of symmetry, or the axis is what it's called, or the axis of symmetry, we need to write this as an equation. So we need to find, okay, well, that axis of symmetry is the line, okay, that cuts this, in this case here, it's going to have the graph, it's going to cut the graph in half, okay? So we start here. So here is the line. It's going to go all the way through there. So if you notice here that that axis of symmetry cuts that in half. Well, it goes through the value of h. So what that means is the axis of symmetry is always going to be x equals whatever h is. Well, we know that h is the x coordinate of the vertex. So therefore, we would say that the axis of symmetry equation is x, which is equal to 3. So let's go ahead and put that in. So we have x, which is equal to 3. Check our answer, and there is our result. Now we need to figure out what is the domain. Now remember, the domain, okay, of this graph, okay, is what is all the x values. So what is the x values that correspond to this graph? So you can see here that everything along the x-axis corresponds to everything on the x-axis. So therefore, we're going to say that the domain, okay, the domain is going from negative infinity to positive infinity. So let's go ahead and put that answer in here. So we have negative infinity to positive infinity, and there's our answer. Okay, now we need to determine what is the range of this function. Okay, so the range of this function, okay, is where you can see here that it starts at negative infinity down here because it keeps going down. And then how far does it go up? Well, it goes up to here, which is negative 1. And so therefore, that represents the y value or the k value of the vertex. So the range starts at negative infinity and goes all the way up to negative 1 with a bracket. So let's go ahead and put that answer in there. So we have parentheses, negative infinity, comma, negative 1 with a bracket, and there is our answer.